Corrupt Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has expressed what his so-called red lines are in regard to the budget reconciliation bill, which would overwhelmingly improve Americans' lives, but it would also lead to higher taxes for the rich, including people like Joe Manchin, so he doesn't like it. Now, Manchin, according to Axios, has told the White House the child tax credit must include a firm work requirement and family income cap in the $60,000 range. Now, in some parts of the country, a household income of $60,000 is okay, you can get by. In other parts of the country, you're not gonna get by, especially if you have a family of 4. So for him to demand that the child tax credit get capped at $60,000 for household income tells you everything you need to know about Joe Manchin, who has no problem engaging in all sorts of self-dealing while he's a senator. Now, if anything, the child tax credit, as the Biden administration has basically formulated it, doesn't go far enough in helping to decrease childhood poverty. Now, it's a good step in the right direction. It would cut childhood poverty by 50%, but I don't know, I'd like to live in a government that prioritizes cutting childhood poverty by 100%. But for Joe Manchin, 50% is just too high. He'd like to see more children in poverty. Now, Axios also fails to note that while the child tax credit would cost $1.6 trillion over the next 10 years, they say that it's very expensive. We spend $7.5 trillion on defense. Manchin, by the way, also wants to block retired guardians from getting any credit. So that might be a grandparent with custody of children or foster or adoptive parents. Manchin saying that they must be employed to get the money. By the way, there have been many children who have lost parents due to the opioid epidemic or COVID-19, and their families could use whatever funding possible to help. A study by Pediatrics cited at least 140,000 children under the age of 18 who have been orphaned due to COVID-19 between April 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2021. So understand what he's saying there. If you happen to be a grandparent, you retired, and something incredibly tragic happened to your family, right? And your grandkids are now orphaned as a result of the opioid epidemic or as a result of the COVID pandemic, and now you are the legal guardian of those children. You would not qualify for the child tax credit unless you get your ass back to work. Back to the mines, that's what Senator Manchin is saying. And by the way, just one quick tweet from Ryan Grimm that I think helps to put this all in perspective. Manchin's own children runs the coal company Manchin launched as a state senator and got a job at Mylan, run by Manchin's friend, cornered the market on EpiPen and got a golden parachute of $30 million. Now Manchin's insisting on work requirements for a child tax credit. Cenk.
He says you got a means test because you don't want rich kids getting unfair benefits. You don't want rich kids getting unfair benefits like, oh, here's a coal company. And by the way, your daddy's a senator who is the 50th vote, and he'll block any legislation that would get us to cleaner energy so you can make money off that dirty coal for the rest of your life, little boy. And hey, girl, I got to give my little daughter, I got tens of millions of dollars for her for free from my corrupt friend. And by the way, they outsourced all the jobs from West Virginia. They're all gone. That's why they gave her the $30 million golden parachute. So they said, now do an orderly transition. Make sure your dad tells everybody in West Virginia to shut up and not complain about those jobs. We'll ship them abroad and we won't pay the workers at all, but we'll pay you. That guy has the temerity to talk about how you need to be means tested in order for your kids to be helped.
No, but just let this all sink in. Do you guys think that Joe Manchin works? What kind of work does Joe Manchin do other than hobnob with his billionaire donors and chill on his little yacht? Like what work is he doing? Is he working for his constituents? I mean, I've seen him work against his constituents. And this is the thing, Manchin is incensed because he's not used to people talking about his corruption. He's not used to people questioning where his real priorities are. And so instead of maybe backing off a little and understanding that people are actually paying very close attention to who he really is, he's decided to double down. And everything that continues to come out of his mouth is worse than what he previously said. In this case, I mean, just think about it, Cenk. Imagine orphaned grandchildren who are now being taken care of by their grandparents who are retired. They wouldn't qualify for a child tax credit unless they go back to work. Really? Really? I'd like to see how easy it would be for Joe Manchin at his age to get a job if he didn't have, senator and bot politician on his resume. Right? If he didn't have these connections to all these corporations. We know about the revolving door. We know that if he's no longer in the Senate, he can go ahead and work as a lobbyist. But erase that possibility. You think he's gonna get hired anywhere else? You know how difficult it is for retired people to go back into the job market? He's disgusting.
But he says, hey, grandpa, you gotta get back to the mines. Okay, so that's the kind of guy he is. All right, now it gets worse. To Anna's point about, wait, do his constituents agree with this? Because they keep saying it all the time on TV like it's true. Even Saturday Night Live does skits where they pretend the people of West Virginia don't want what's in this bill. Well, let's look at some numbers and see if that's true or not. 2/3 or more, and I'm quoting the West Virginia Gazette Mail here. 2/3 or more West Virginia respondents had favorable responses to provisions in the proposal. 2/3, that seems pretty good, doesn't it? That seems like they kind of overwhelmingly wanted, including ensuring that major public investments include requirements that products and materials used are made in America. That's 80%. Rebuilding America's water infrastructure, 77%. These are not Democratic numbers and these are not national numbers. These are all of West Virginia, including the Republicans. Stronger protections for organized labor, 68%, more than 2/3. And prioritizing investments to energy workers affected by the nation's transition to clean energy, 66%. The people of West Virginia love this bill. They love it. You know why? It gets them jobs. It gets them a transition that they desperately need in West Virginia. And they also love the paid family leave and other things that are in it. But Axios reports the senator is less interested in the $225 billion to $450 billion paid family leave proposal, or $400 billion for a new program to provide care for elderly and disabled people, according to people familiar with the matter. He's less interested in that, Anna.
Yeah, you know what I found fascinating though, in the same report, Axios did talk a little bit about what he is interested in, and there's a reason why he's interested in this. So they write, in addition to the pared back child tax credit, Manchin is open to Biden's $450 billion plan to subsidize daycare and offer free universal preschool. Okay, let's stop right there. There's a reason why he's in favor of that. And it's not because he genuinely wants to help his constituents or Americans in general for that matter. It's because businesses are realizing, oh my God, this worker shortage is endless and we need to get people back to work. The only way we can do that is if we have a system in place that offers affordable and accessible childcare. Listen, I'm in favor of those provisions, but I'm in favor of the entirety of Biden's agenda here. Manchin wants to pare back everything, completely avoid raising taxes, completely avoid doing anything about climate change because he benefits from destroying the planet through the coal industry. But what he does seem to be in favor of now, maybe he got together with his billionaire buddies and they told him it's okay to support this, is the preschool, is the universal childcare. Because that opens up the possibility, the potential for people who can't go to work right now to go to work. That's all it's about. The business community is finally starting to realize, oh, maybe universal pre-K makes a lot of sense here. Maybe subsidized daycare or daycare makes a lot of sense here.
Ding, 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 we have a winner. Guys, we've told you this Rosetta Stone many times. If you wanna know who's gonna win, who's gonna lose, and what provisions they're gonna favor, just look at where corporations lie, and then you'll have your answer. Because we live under complete and utter corporate rule, including corporate media that hides that fact. So in this case, if you get childcare, now companies realize belatedly, that's why they're sending Joe out there, wait, I need them to come back to work and I get to make the taxpayer pay for that. That's a pretty good deal, okay. Now, what's the provision Joe Manchin is less interested in? Paid family leave. Well, that would mean that after you have a baby, you can be out for 12 weeks. Well, then you're not in the mines, are you?
He don't like that.
We need you in the mines We can't have you going out there and recuperating for 12 weeks after having a baby. No, back to the mines, okay? And elderly care, well, Joe Manchin has a well-known history of apparently opposing grandpas and grandmas. And so that's the easy one to, there must not be a giant corporation in that industry. And in fact, it subsidizes people in the family, etc., that help. Well, if they're in your family, they're real human beings and they don't donate to Joe Manchin. So finally, guys, it always comes back to the same thing, which is Chamber of Commerce says, send them back to work, give them that, we like that one, we don't like that one. And then the corporate media comes in and says, the people of West Virginia want Joe Manchin to do this. When we just read you the numbers, they don't. When we read you more numbers, they don't agree with Joe Manchin on any of it. Then you have to ask yourself, wait, why is the media covering up what's real, right? So guys, Daily Poster, Intercept, Salon Today has a great article, Guardian, there's great media, go find them. But if you're relying on mainstream media, they're gonna pretend this is a battle of ideas, when in reality, all we're doing here is haggling with Democratic donors in public. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.